Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message.
Namaste and greetings. I got it. Ah, I lost it. Yes, that is what we are talking about today. I got it. I lost it. So the question we start off with today is, who are you? And I mean, who are you really? So very often we identify ourselves with some form of external criteria. There's something about our job, place of birth, something. And we use this to determine and explain who we are. We get addicted to it. We've been conditioned to buy into the idea that this external standard or criteria define us. And there is a fascinating dance between our imaginary sense of identity, the ego self, the self that edges God out, and our true divine nature, the self that expresses or embodies God only, and how we do this or engage in this daily. And now it's important to know that there is nothing wrong with this dance. There is nothing wrong with identifying, I am a teacher. What I do is teach. What I am is God. Like linguistic convenience, right? Like we can move through the things that say, I understand that that which I am is the divine. I am that which has no name or label. The Tao that you can name isn't the Tao. So I understand that the all that is what I am. But I can also use the common language to reference myself as a Black man who is 5'10" and weighs, what's today? 165 pounds, right? Like I can use the language of both and. So there's nothing wrong with this dance as long as we know that we are dancing. If we know that we are dancing, then we are in control of the dance. We are in control of the languaging and the moving between worlds rather than being set and operating by default that something or someone else established. So once again, I ask, who are you and who are you really? And how do you know you are who you think you are? How do you know? How do you know that you are truly expressing who you are versus you are expressing who you think you are, but you're actually expressing who your mom or a teacher or the government says that you are? Who are you? And why is that even important? Adyashanti, in his book, The End of Your World, tells of this phenomenon. I had it, I lost it. And that it is a struggle between our true nature and our imaginary sense of identity. Sometimes we feel awake, and at other times we remain in the dream state of life, living in some form of a detached perspective. Enlightenment, but now I'm not. But I had it, and I don't have it now. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And after the chop wood, carry water. But you remember that you had the but some of us try to cling to the you're not meant to cling. In the same way that if you're eating a delicious, and I mean delicious dessert, like there's this cake in front of you and it's delicious. I mean, oh my goodness. And you cut into it and you put it in your mouth. How long is it supposed to sit there? I mean, it's really good. So you're do you do that for 3 minutes? Do you do that for 3 days? 3 weeks? How long do you It's not meant to be held and swished about. It is meant to be put in, tasted and marinated, and swallowed, and eventually eliminated. This is no different. As we move through these stages, we taste it and we eliminate it and move on to the next bite, the next taste, the next breath. So rather than, I got it, I lost it. You didn't lose it. I got it. I'm aware of what was, and I'm aware of what is. And even in the midst of, it doesn't have to feel the same. I got the chocolate cake. I ate it. It's gone. I'm now eating salad. I got it, but I lost it. You didn't lose it. You moved to the next thing. The cake isn't lost. No, you are not still tasting it. No, you are not still swishing it about, but it's not lost. You are on to the next awareness, and the next awareness is this bite of salad or this bite of whatever it is. You have moved on to the next and the next and the next. You didn't lose it. Eckhart Tolle offers us the most common ego identifications have to do with possessions. Isn't it interesting that we talk about possessions in the same way that we, people in the metaphysical expression of being possessed by a demon, demonic possessions? Isn't it funny that, anyhow, it's just interesting though, because the concept is the same. The most common ego identifications have to do with how we are possessed by our work, the things that we own, some social status, some recognition that has been bestowed upon us, some degree or knowledge or education, some physical appearance, some special abilities, relationships, history of family and other persons, our belief systems, the nation of origin, our racial, ethnic backgrounds, religions, and any other of the collective identifications that are labels. But the label on the jar is not what's in the jar. The label is a label. What's in the jar is the thing itself. None of these things, none of these labels are you. But when we are possessed by them, then we are losing our way, so to speak. We are not truly walking the walk of our authentic and true selves because we think we're something else. Our real nature is not our imaginary or limited ego. Our true nature is vast, all comprehensive, and intangible as empty space. Take that in for a second. What is he expressing? That the thing that you are is beyond the labels. It's beyond the small quantifiable things that, how much do you, because when we go to these, dinner parties, so what do you do for a living? I live. No, I mean, how do you make a living? How do you earn money? What? Like, we do this. When the truth of it is, we are beyond that which can be named, that which can be labeled, that which can be quantified. That is our true nature. But once again, there's nothing wrong with navigating and using the language of the people in the room. If I'm in a room with people who do ASL, and I know ASL, why am I speaking Chinese or Japanese? I'm going to use American Sign Language. If I'm in a room with people who speak Spanish, if I speak Spanish, why am I in the room speaking German? I'm going to speak Spanish. It's okay to use the language that's being used in the room. And if the language in the room is, oh, I understand what they're asking. They're asking me, what is my job? I'm going to talk about my job. I'm not going to say, well, what I do for a living is I bend time and space because that which I am is the infinite and eternal, expressing itself as me. And as I open my eyes, I've seen they've already walked away. It's okay to use the language as long as we are aware of the truth. Because if we're not aware and we're using the language and we're in the dance and don't even know that we're dancing, then we're connected to that imaginary ego, that ego where the chattering mind that we talked about last week. We are edging God out. We are segmenting and segregating and bypassing and denying, rather than being in a space of, so wait a minute, who am I? What am I? The truth of my being. If I'm in the space of the truth of my being, then I understand this version of ego was non-life affirming. Then what's the life affirming version of the ego is expressing or embodying God only. And there are times when I will use the language of the other ego because that's what this other person understands. But I know the truth of my being still. And in there, I may even do my best to crack open and introduce them to the life affirming ego, if it's appropriate. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I can't do that if I'm not even aware and discerning the difference between the two. If you get the inside right, the outside will fall into place. Primary reality is within. Secondary reality is without. Primary reality is the truth of our being as within. Secondary reality as without. Primary reality, the thoughts I am thinking, the beliefs. Secondary reality begins once I speak it and it becomes an externalized thing. Are we getting the inside right? Are we getting the truth of who we are? Are we getting that right? Because according to Eckhart, when we get the inside right, correct, effective, then the outside, the manifested reality will happen naturally because there will be nothing to hinder it. But we have to do it individually and collectively. So when we talk about the ego, are we talking about the limited ego, or are we talking about another kind of ego? There is one, this is one of the greatest truths of metaphysics. God can become to the individual only what God can become through and as the individual. Does this not go back to what we just said a couple of slides ago? If you get the inside right, if you know who and what you are, limited ego aside, if you know who and what you are, then that which God is becomes what it is to the degree of your knowing. How much God do you know that you are? How much God are you embodying as your truth in your thoughts, your words, your emotions and feelings, and your actions? Breathe. Because once again, this is our invitation. Because this is when we have entered the area of, or the realm of, the divine ego, to know who and what you are truly, and live, move, and have your beingness from and as that. Limited ego or divine ego, we get to choose. Aristotle reminds us that knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. Do you know yourself? And the self that you know yourself to be, what is it? How did it develop? How is it growing, shifting, evolving? Because if it's the beginning of all wisdom, then it means the more you know yourself, the more you know the truth of yourself, and then you are better equipped to act accordingly. Now, ego. So we were talking about limited ego, divine ego. Figured I'd throw this in there, just the idea of your alter ego. What does that mean? Just in general, alter ego. Someone walks up to you and says, you know what Reverend Ray's alter ego is? How would you answer that? Well, let's, in a more generalized, common way of referencing this, someone talks about the alter ego. What they're generally talking about is some version of a superhero, right? There's the person and their alter ego. Bruce Wayne, Batman. Now, when we get to these other two, however, the alter ego is actually the mortal. See, Batman is the alter ego of Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne was born Bruce Wayne. He became Batman. Kal-El was born Kal-El. He was born Superman. Wasn't the title he used, but it was the family crest. He was born that. He became Clark Kent. Diana, Princess of Themyscira, was born Diana. She put on the persona of Diana Prince as her alter ego. Just to clarify some things. So when we talk about this idea of alter ego, which one is real and which one is fake? Now, in terms of people and their wax figures, it may be easy to discern the real or the fake. So this is sort of a trick question. Which one is real and which one is fake? Because technically, both are real. That is a real statue that looks like a real person. So it really looks like this person. So they're both real. But which one is the one that is living, moving, and having their beingness in the world? One simply stands. And yet they're both God. Just to throw that out there. They are both God, but they are God expressing and individualizing itself very differently. So in the concept of alter ego, it's important to be mindful of the etymology of it. In Latin means one's other self, or the second I. Do you have a second I? Another self? Have you ever heard the phrase code switching? If not, I invite you to look it up. If so, is that a form of being in one's alter ego? And keep in mind, not saying that one's alter ego neither good nor bad, simply is. But it's knowing when we are switching between one and another. Does Bruce Wayne know when he's Batman versus does Kal-El know when he's Superman versus, like, do they know? Can they consciously choose when to be which other? And how are you choosing? What are you choosing? Howard Falco says, who do you choose to be and how do you choose to demonstrate it? Which ego do you choose to embody and how do you choose to demonstrate it? Which ego? Which expression? What's the embodiment that you are choosing and how are you demonstrating it? Ralph Ellison says, when I discover who I am, I'll be free. What does it mean you'll be free when you discover who you are? When I discover who I am free to be the divine expression that is incarnating itself as me. To what degree have you discovered who you are? To what degree are you currently free? Or do you feel confined and ensnared by the labels others have placed upon you? To what degree have you adopted and adapted to their labels and their definitions of you versus your own. Pythagoras reminds us, know thyself, then you shalt know the universe and God. Wait, what? When we know ourselves, and I mean our true self, when we know ourselves, then we have no choice but to understand the universe and God, because we understand what oneness actually is. There is no me-ness that is separate from you-ness, that is separate from God-ness, that is separate from oneness. It's all the same. So when we know ourselves truly, then we shall know the universe and God. So we ask the question once again, we come back to, who are you? Who are you? Well, you know what? Maybe the question actually isn't, who are you? Maybe the question is, which are you? Which are you? And when we talk about which are you, which or which is which? Which one is Peter Parker? Which one is Spider-Man? Or are they both Peter Parker and they're both Spider-Man? Simply a question. Which are you? Which are you choosing to be moment by moment? Or are you choosing who to be based upon what others are doing to you? Are you choosing who you are based upon the buttons that others are pushing? Is your life and your life experience being dictated by how someone else is pushing your buttons? Have you ever been in an elevator when somebody, usually a child, usually a child, not always, hits all of the buttons? Are you allowing your peace to be robbed because they're pushing buttons? Literal or metaphysical, emotional, psychological buttons? Doesn't matter how or what the buttons are. Are you letting that dictate who you are and how you show up? Ram Dass reminds us that if you think you're enlightened, go spend Thanksgiving, go spend a holiday with your family. Then we will see exactly how enlightened you actually are. Why is this? Because your family, consciously or unconsciously, subconsciously, they know your buttons. How many people have said, I'm a grown person. As soon as I go home and get around my parents or whomever, I turn right back into that 5-year-old version of me. Yes, mom. Okay. Yeah. Wait, why? Because we're letting the circumstances, we're letting the environment choose who we are rather than choosing for ourselves. Soren Kierkegaard says to venture causes anxiety, but to not venture is to lose oneself. And to venture is the highest, or venture in the highest is precisely to be conscious of oneself. So if we don't venture, we're going to lose ourselves. We're going to lose who we are and what we're supposed to do. But to venture is going to cause anxiety, because growing and changing and choosing our autonomy and our divine sovereignty causes anxiety, because it means we have to break the mold that others have determined we should stay in. So when you choose to venture, what does it look like for you? Or are you not feeling the anxiety of venturing because you're comfortable and complacent right where you are? As Rumi reminds us, and you, when will you begin that long journey into yourself? When? If not now, when? And what does it mean for you? What does it look like for you to begin that long journey into yourself? You familiar with Joseph Campbell? Well, Joseph Campbell once said that the cave that you fear to enter, the journey you fear to begin, the book you fear to write, the class you fear to teach, the healing you fear to go through actually holds the treasure you seek. The courageous conversation that you fear holds the treasure you seek. The conflict you are avoiding holds the treasure you seek. What is the treasure you seek? Only you can answer that. Well, what is the cave? Only you can answer that. But it's your opportunity to begin that journey to ask yourself, what am I? I've been avoiding doing that. I've been avoiding shifting that. I've been avoiding addressing that or healing that, which is why when I go around family, I revert back to, I digress into, I de-evolve back into some younger, less aware version of myself. And all of the buttons that they push, I'm reactive to all of them. And then now I'm spiraling out and ready to drink or ready to whatever it is. Why? Because we're not addressing, we are not entering the cave, and we are not going on this adventure to truly transform. Because it's easier to think that this spiritual thing is a beautiful, pure versus it's a ow, that hurt. Yeah, the pinch, the yeah, oh man, it hurt. Yes, we want it to be as painless and pain-free and as angels and harps as possible. Yeah, cool, gotcha. But that's not adventure. That's not life. Sometimes, not always, sometimes the very thing that causes the pain is the thing that cracks us open. That is not an invitation to seek the pain, but it is an invitation to be aware of the pain. Be aware of the anger, the frustration, the sadness, the grief, all of the things. Be aware of it. And be aware that, am I actually doing what I need to do to move through it and heal it? Or am I stuck in the quicksand of it? Hermann Hesse says, I have been and still am a seeker, but I have ceased to question stars and books. I have begun to listen to their teaching. My blood whispers to me. I'm still a seeker, but I don't question stars and books. I have begun to listen to the teaching that my blood whispers to me. I listen to the divine. I listen to my intuition. I listen to my inner knowing rather than needing the stars or books to answer my questions. I can read, look at the stars. I can read my horoscope if I want to. Cool. Do whatever you need to do. Cool. But listen, don't question them and seek external. Go within. Go to that space within you that already knows. At the center of your being, you have the answer. You know who you are, and you know what you want and what to do. At the center of your being, are you taking the journey to the center of your being? Until you make the unconscious conscious, The unconscious will continue to direct your life, and you will call it destiny and fate. You'll let this thing that's the iceberg analogy, all of the iceberg that's beneath the surface of the water, not visible to the naked eye. It's beneath the water. You'll let all of that dictate your life, and you will call it the will of God. You'll call it destiny, and you'll call it fate, rather than expose the unconscious, make it conscious, and then choose accordingly. Carl Jung reminds us, the one who looks outside simply dreams, and this form of dreaming is just imagination that is not embodied and acted upon. But the one who looks inside, the one who goes to that conscious place, the one who makes the unconscious conscious, that person awakens. That person demonstrates enlightenment. That person changes how they live, move, and have their being. How are you? What are you invited to do? And how are you healing and evolving and going to that space of your infinite knowing and make that infinite knowing your embodiment, which changes all of your external expression? Dr. Holmes asks, what is the difference between God and each person, God and human beings? The very fact that a person can say, I am, proves that that person is. Since that person must be made out of life and must be some part of the all that there is. This being so, this person must be a part of God's consciousness. There's only God's consciousness. They have to be a part of it. The difference would be in degree only. The person must be as much of life as they recognize themselves to be. How much of the I am, how much of God, how much of source, how much of spirit do you recognize yourself to be? What is the difference between God and man? What is the difference between God and you? What is the difference between Clark and Kal-El or Superman? What is the difference? There is no difference. They are one and the same. So rather than thinking of his S meaning Superman, let's make his S mean spirit. What is the difference? They're both spirit. Or what is the difference? They are both source, one and the same. He and the alter ego, source and spirit, both are the same supreme self. Both are the true self. Both are the infinite self. One simply pretends not to be, but they both are. So as we go through life, however it is that we're navigating life. There are times that we know, and there are times that we might not know or not be aware, but we still know. On some level, we still know. So how are you invited to navigate your whole self, your true self, you and God, one, which means you as God or God as you? How are you navigating that awareness? Dr. Holmes says it is not enough to say there is one life, and that life is God. It's not enough to say it. We must complete this saying by saying, that life is my life now. Because we must couple this life with ours in order to express it. We are not becoming this life, but we are now in and of this life. There is no other life. God is not becoming, God is. God is not growing, God is complete. God is not trying to find out something. God is not learning something. God already knows. Evolution is not the expression of a becoming God, but is simply one of the ways that God, who already is, expresses itself. And as such, it is the logical result of involution and is eternally going on. God is. So if we wanted to say the individual expression of you as God, yes, grows, yes, learns, but God is the absolute, God is the infinite. No, there is no need for the all that is to learn, to grow, it simply is. Even the concept of God is ever evolving. No, because there's nothing for it to evolve into. We as the expression of, just like God is the absolute, God isn't breathing or eating or eliminating. God simply is. But the breathing, the eating, the eliminating happens in this expression. So now one of the things that comes up for me with this is the idea that we are not in a school for the sake of needing to learn something. That's not why God is expressing itself as you, because God doesn't need to learn something. That's like saying God is the college professor that has 15 doctoral degrees in all kinds of disciplines, but decides to reincarnate as an unaware elementary school student to learn math and science because it wants to learn math. It already knew math and science. Why would it need to? It already knows. So why would it need? You get my drift. So I'm inviting us to let go of that idea. And if there is learning to be done, it is learning by our choice to learn to say. There is something that I desire in this expression to learn, not God needing to learn. Just an invitation. Because that's a different awareness of God. Voltaire reminds us God is a circle whose center is everywhere and the circumference nowhere. So there is one life, and that life is God, and that life is your life now. Not later, not tomorrow, not after you're enlightened. It is your life now. But to be aware of this, seek ye first the kingdom and all of the righteousness of this kingdom, and all that is shall be added unto you. But where is the kingdom? Within you. So engage in all of your practices: meditation, visualization, journaling, drawing, writing, walking, conversations, whatever it is that gets you in greater tune with yourself and the true self of yourself. That's the practice. Don't engage in all of these things as distractions that keep you from yourself, but engage in the things that bring you closer to yourself. Just like any relationship, we know there are things that you would do that if I do this, it's going to put a wedge between me and my beloved. If I go, whatever this is, I go bowling when we were going to go to the movies, like there are things that strengthen this relationship and there are things that will strain the relationship. Same thing for the relationship you have with you as you, yourself, your alter ego, all of it. What are your practices that strengthen your relationship with yourself? Because those relationships, or the things that strengthen this relationship, are the things that strengthen your awareness of the divine as you. And as that is built, you then know the divinity of others. You see oneness even in the midst of duality. You see oneness even in the midst of lack and scarcity. You see oneness because you see it and know it for yourself. The Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 offers us a way of identifying who and what we are, and a way of living as the embodiment of who and what we are. The more we embody this, the more we navigate our lives with power, grace, compassion, wisdom, and an evolutionary prophetic consciousness. Navigating life in this way enables us to radically influence, heal, and impact the collective consciousness, which shows up as effective laws, policies, social programs, and more. A world that works for all is manifested by how we actively live the truth of our being. Breathe. This week's affirmation or declaration, I will say it first, and if it resonates, I invite you to repeat it the second time around. Today, I embrace my identification with and as God, and I live as that self. What's going on with the typos, Tracy? Once again, come on. Today, I embrace my identification with and as God, and I live as that self. And so it is. This week's journal questions or Thursday night study group questions. Number 1, who am I? What are some of the things and what are some of the people, or who are some of the people who shaped me into the person that I am today? What is an example of when I let my limited ego influence my life? What are my buttons? Why do they trigger me? What can I do to lessen their influence? That right there is a whole. Woo, woo. Number 4, when does my alter ego make an appearance? And what is the function of this aspect of myself? Licensed practitioner Charlie Shepard often says, "You are God. Now act like it." What does it mean for you? What does it mean for me to act like it? And lastly, what is my practice? What is my process of greater self-awareness? How do I identify who and what I am? And how do I make the unconscious conscious? Breathe. Simply anchoring into this awareness, we end today's message simply with this: I am God. I choose to act like it. I am that which is. I choose to act like it. The fullness of my being. Source. I act like it. My mind, God's mind. I act like it. My words, God's words. I speak like it. My emotions and feelings, God's emotions and feelings. I embody and embrace them. My actions, God's actions. I enact them. I am God. I choose to act like the truth of my being. I am what it is. And what is true of it is true of me. Body this, and I live according to this truth. And so it is. And so it is. Blessings and gratitude, everyone. As always, see you during the week. And otherwise, see you here once again. Same bat time, same bat channel next Sunday. Love and appreciate you.